Hi everyone, welcome to 41ideas.com, where I give my thoughts on interesting startups and cool ideas. The first startup that I want to talk about today is called Volley. The address is Volley.works. Now, Volley is another mentoring startup, and I say another because these kind of startups, they pop up all over the place. I was even involved in one, just still in the concept stage, about 6 months ago, I think. But what Volley has done to separate themselves out is they have made their site invitation only. So the way the site works is you can go there, if you're a member, you can pose a question. They have an example on the side. I think it's I want to meet a UX designer who has worked on iPhone applications or something like that. And then it goes out to members who have expertise in that area. And if they can't answer the question, they can actually volley, hence the name, it onto the request onto someone who's not currently a member. And then if that person, if they actually provide helpful response to the question, to the request, they can then become a member. I really like the idea of having the whole site be invitation only. When I was going through the concept of a similar startup, one of our big issues was how do we ensure that the community is high quality? And this may actually solve that problem, so I like it. But just that alone isn't enough to really catch my attention. The reason Volley is getting a spot on my blog is because for their launch, they actually created physical invitations for all their members. And that invitation, it included a laser etched key ID thing. The individual, it's unique for every person. And then they mailed it out to every one of the users. That's fantastic. I think that shows a level of care for the community that is rare. And I think if they can keep that up, they very well might succeed. So good luck to you guys, Volley. I hope everything works out. So the second startup that I want to talk about is pretty cool. It's called ClaraLabs.com. And Clara Labs is it's a digital assistant. But what Clara does is it helps you arrange for meeting times. So when you're emailing with somebody and you're like, oh, we should meet, you CC Clara on the email, and then she takes over. I keep saying she. And then Clara takes over and actually emails back and forth with the person you're trying to set up a meeting for. And then when an agreement is made, the meeting gets put into your calendar. Easy. The design on their site is fantastic. When you first go to the site, it says, "Hi there, I'm Clara." It's fantastic. And apparently, I don't know if any of you have gone through sending 9 emails back and forth just to arrange a meeting, and it's so time consuming. And to have just a digital assistant that takes care of that for you is brilliant. And from what I hear and from what I've seen, it's actually really good at sounding like a human being. It very well could be an actual physical, a human being that you have as an assistant. I really like it. I'm excited. If you have a company that spends a lot of money or spends a lot of time just arranging meetings, you may want to check out Clara. It's a bit expensive. I think it's like $200 a month. But, I mean, when you're wasting hours of employee time each week setting up meetings, it's completely worth it, in my opinion. Okay, so for the second week in a row, I'm actually, once again, breaking my rule about only talking about startups. And next week, I'm also going to break that rule. So this may become more, I talk about 2 startups and 1 cool idea. So the cool idea, I'm sure you've heard of it, is this impossible microwave engine that NASA recently tested. So this was actually developed in the UK a few years ago by a guy who actually spent a lot of time working in the space industry. And it was tested by the Chinese a few years ago, and they also got positive results. And then NASA recently tested this engine. It's called the microwave engine. And Supposedly, what it does is it creates thrust without the need for fuel. And this has every armchair physicist up in arms because, oh, they're violating conservation of momentum. And I just kind of, or the only thing that people come up with is like it's pushing on the quantum vacuum. I don't know. So it seems to me nobody's actually gone and read the paper by the guy who invented the thing. So I have it up here, and I'm just gonna read a section straight from the paper, and then it explains how it works. Okay, so essentially, this is my own interpretation to cut out the first page. It's a cone-shaped device with a microwave that feeds microwaves in it, and just based off of the shape of the engine and the length, you can actually get a difference in radiation pressure on the top than on the bottom, and that's like Phys 102 level E&M. Like larger surface, and you do the shape right, you can get a larger radiation pressure on the big surface than you do on the small surface. Okay, but the way that this actually generates thrust is, this is actually a direct quote. However, as the velocities at each end of the waveguide, the structure, are significant fractions of the speed of light, a derivation of the force difference equation invokes the difference in velocities and therefore must take into account the special theory of relativity. The relativity theory implies that the electromagnetic wave and the waveguide assembly form an open system. Thus, the force difference results in a thrust which acts on the waveguide assembly. So, a lot of people are quoting if you blow on a sail on a sailboat, the sailboat doesn't move forward. But if you're not on the sailboat and you blow on the sail of the sailboat, it's gonna move forward. And one of the nuances of relativity is that when you're acting at large fractions of the speed of light, pretty much everything becomes an open system. So you can actually theoretically generate forward momentum based off of dissipating microwave energy onto one side of this engine. So yes, it may be violating conservation of momentum in the most general, vague sense, but energy is being dissipated at one end, so it's not like we're just pulling energy out of nowhere, and it doesn't rely on quantum vacuum thrust. It's special relativity and freshman level physics. It's brilliant, and there's actually a device currently being used, a laser gyroscope, that actually depends on the validity of the critical facet of special relativity that this is also dependent on. So we know this is true because we use it. So, I mean, I'm still not entirely convinced. I'd like to see the data. I'd like to see it actually work. But I'm really hopeful, and after reading the paper, there's nothing I see that's too far over my head, and I don't see any problems with it. So I'm excited. I know last time I talked about some kind of anti-gravity superconductor spinning, and I gave that like a 1 in 10 chance maybe of being legitimate, but I'm pretty convinced. I think this is legit. So yeah, the impossible microwave engine. Don't believe everything you read in the news. It has nothing to do with quantum vacuum. I mean, I could be wrong. It might. But I really, really doubt that it has anything to do with quantum vacuum pressure something. Whatever. So yeah. So thank you everybody for listening to me ramble about a possible microwave engine. And I hope to see you next week.